We acknowledge that we are on Treaty 6 territory, the gathering grounds of many diverse First Nation, Métis, and Inuit peoples whose footsteps have marked this land and whose presence continues to enrich our vibrant community. Hello and welcome back to Research Recasted, the Knowledge Mobilization podcast. I'm your host, Kelsey Howlett, and today we are joined by Dr. Farzan Rahimi. Farzan Rahimi is an assistant professor of design and a Tier 2 Canada Research Chair in Immersive Learning at MacEwan University. He is also the founder and director of the Immersive Learning Institute. With a background in architecture, engineering, and computational design, Farzan's work focuses on innovative approaches and interdisciplinary practices to design and develop immersive learning experiences in both formal and informal learning contexts. Hello, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hello, thank you very much for having me in this winter day.
Yes, the weather outside is less than ideal now.
It is. Yesterday was really different from what we experience here in Edmonton usually. So I've been here for almost 2 years, but I've been in Calgary for 7 years.
Okay.
So it was different.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, we're going to get started. And I wanted to start by getting you to tell us a little bit about your background in immersive learning and how exactly you would define the term immersive learning.
Sure. So I have a background in architecture, engineering, and computational design. And the kind of projects that I do are mostly focused on immersive learning. Immersive learning is an approach to learning facilitated by immersion in a way that a simulated experience be perceived by the user as a first-hand experience. So we use different technologies, different strategies for doing so and creating different kind of learning experiences in formal and informal learning contexts to facilitate the process and experience of learning for people.
Okay. Would you be able to give us an example of what those technologies and strategies that you use?
Sure. So, for example, in terms of technologies, there are lots of different types of technologies that we use. For example, we use reality capture technologies. One category of technology, we use artificial intelligence. Another category of technologies, and we mostly use extended reality technology. The third category of technology, which focuses on virtual reality, augmented reality, and mixed reality. This is on the side of technologies. On the side of strategies, we use multiple strategies. For example, place-based, narrative-based, and game-based strategies are some of the most common strategies that we usually use for immersive learning experiences. And depending on the situation, depending on the context, we can use a combination of technologies and strategies.
Okay. So I guess following up with that, you recently collaborated with the TELUS World of Science and Elixir Simulations on a project that helped users or guests navigate the exhibits there that used immersive learning technologies. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So it was a kind of interesting collaboration between the industry partner Elixir Simulations and the community partner TELUS World of Science Edmonton. And the main goal was to facilitate the process of learning, navigation, and exploration at the TELUS World of Science for the visitors. So what we did, I worked with the students in my class and the community and industry partners to develop several experiences using different kind of technologies and different strategies. For example, we have projects that are focused on virtual reality and using game-based strategies. We have projects that use augmented reality and using place-based strategies. And we have one smart glasses project that is more on the side of speculative design kind of projects. So what we did was that we devised the projects into two main categories for exploration and navigation. So exploration projects were those that facilitate the process of learning about the content of an exhibit. So you go into an exhibit, there are lots of background information that usually do not come to your attention. So these immersive learning experiences can help to bring those to the attention of the user. And also we focus on a second category of projects. These projects focused on navigation and wayfinding across the Talos World of Science. We had some projects that took advantage of both categories and combined navigation and exploration together and created fascinating projects.
Yeah, I know when it comes to museums or places like the Talos World of Science, there can be so much going on that it can be hard to see everything. So I think having those strategies to make sure that people are getting the most out of their experiences is really interesting and exciting for people. I did have a little question. You said game-based and place-based strategies.
Yes.
Can you kind of explain a little bit about what those are? Maybe give us an example?
Sure. So game-based strategies usually focus on elements from games. So for example, how you score some points, how you address the challenge of the game, like complete kind of like, mission or something like that. These kind of strategies borrow elements from games. Place-based strategies look into the potential that a place has. For example, it has cultural values for a community. It has social meanings for them, collective meanings for them, and bringing those meanings to the attention of the user. Many of visitors to a place do not necessarily know about the context, about what this place means to the community around it. So these kind of place-based strategies bring those information into the attention of the user and provide an opportunity to make better connections and engagement with the context.
Oh, that's really cool. So you mentioned culture and context and social context and all of that. And right now you're in collaboration with Université Laval, hoping I said that right, to help create these immersive learning experience for remote access to cultural heritage. And I was wondering what that project is entailing.
Sure. This is a project that is currently going on. We recently published a paper on that project. The project focuses on the integrative use of reality capture technologies, machine learning, and extended reality technologies to provide an agile way to preserve and digitize the cultural heritage and then use it as a basis for creating immersive learning experiences for remote access and learning about different cultural values and social values of Canada. So for now, we are focusing on a few places in Quebec with my colleagues at Université Laval. And what we are doing is that we use a combination of these technologies to capture and digitize a building. For example, in the paper that we published, we digitized a 2-story building in less than an hour. So it is very useful for different purposes. If you want to create an immersive learning based on this, it provides you an opportunity to reduce the time and the effort for doing that. Also, what we can use it for is for situations that a building is endangered. So, for example, in Canada, we have harsh weather. In some other places in the world, we are experiencing war. And in those situations, many of the cultural values and cultural heritage and buildings are endangered. So with these method that we are developing, it is possible to capture and digitize many of those buildings in a short amount of time. In case that they get damaged, we have this information already in place and we use them to reconstruct and build those parts that are demolished in a war or in a harsh weather condition. So it can be useful for many different purposes. One of them being reconstructing and conservation for experts in the field. The other one is for immersive learning. So these buildings that we capture and digitize can be used for many different purposes, navigation and exploration of a historic building, knowing that what happened in 1800s and what kind of buildings we had there, what kind of information we can get from them. What does this specific element in this building mean to the to the people, to the community in that time? Those kind of things can be learned from these immersive learning experiences.
That's fascinating, being able to basically create a digital, virtual building in order to preserve that. That's actually really cool.
Yeah, we call it digital twin of a building.
Digital twin.
Yes.
I love that. All right. I want to talk to you about your Canada Research Chair appointment because you are a Tier 2 Canada Research Chair in Immersive Learning here at MacEwan. And I want to ask how that appointment has been helping with your research.
So Canada Research Chair, as you know, is one of the prestigious, appointments that we have in Canada. And with it it brings lots of different opportunities. With the resources that is attached to a Canada Research Chair, the possibilities for doing novel research and collaborative practices is very high. So it is one of the most important things that comes with the Canada Research Chair. Another aspect is that, the amount of collaboration increases. Canada Research Chair can reach out to people and, share the ideas with them. And, we can build up teams with people, not only at our own university, but also at other universities and beyond Canada. So those are some of the potentials that come with it. Another is that, as you may know, we recently established an Immersive Learning Institute at MacEwan University. It will be a good opportunity for increasing collaborations and interdisciplinary practices with colleagues that we have at MacEwan University and beyond. So this is another potential that comes with the Canada Research Chair. And again, there are lots of potentials that Canada Research Chair can bring to the research and collaborations with community and industry partners. It is usually very cultivating experience for every party in it, the Canada Research Chair, the industry partner and the community partner, to work together, share the ideas, learn from each other, and reflect on those ideas that they have to create something useful for the community and the industry.
Wow. And so how are you planning on using this appointment to kind of help further your research?
So one of them is that, we established this Immersive Learning Institute. Mm-hmm. It's a place for people to come together, work together on different ideas. And then it is an opportunity for students to get involved in the research as research assistant at, students in the Immersive Learning classes and, involving in many different levels of collaborations with the community and industry partners. At the same time, we are thinking about developing a future minor or a program in immersive learning in collaboration with other universities. So it will be a kind of exchange of knowledge between the universities, working together and learning from each other. It will be a good opportunity for the students as well. So we can bring some students from other universities. We can have our students in other universities sitting in each other's class and learn from each other. At the same time, as you know, there are opportunities for hiring postdoctoral fellows and working with graduate students. I'm currently doing that. So this is an opportunity that provides new ways of learning for the students. So we have undergraduate students here. They can get involved in such projects, working with a postdoc or a graduate student, learning from them, and also sharing the skills and the capabilities that our students learn at the MacEwan University. So these are some of the potentials and opportunities that we are currently working on, but there are many other opportunities that we work on in the upcoming few years.
Wow. It sounds like you're doing a lot and you have great plans for it. Just out of curiosity, so the immersive learning classes, are those through the design program here?
Yeah. So basically they're hosted in design program, but they're open to students from other departments. The idea is that to have a kind of mix of students from different departments to have a kind of interdisciplinary experience for the students in the class. They learn from each other. Each student comes from a different background, different school of thought, and they exchange thoughts, and this way they learn how other fields think about one single problem. And for example, as a designer, I might iterate on a problem and go back and forth on it. As an engineer, I might think about it linearly. I address a problem one step at a time and then go forward for it. So the students working together from science, from nursing, from design, from business, they can learn from each other how they think about one single problem to address an immersive learning experience or a challenge related to immersive learning, and see how we can address that from multiple perspectives.
That's really interesting, especially bringing up that it doesn't just have to be design, and that all of these different departments can come together and learn, because this type of learning can be beneficial to, I think, almost anybody.
True.
Right? Because immersive learning, I can see so many opportunities within the field of medicine and nursing and all of that.
True.
So I think that's really, really fascinating. This type of learning, is this is newer with like the technologies that are coming out, like, and you said that you're working towards possibly making a minor out of it for people to take. Have you seen that done anywhere else, like at any other schools?
So a minor in immersive learning, no, we don't have it. Like, not in Canada, not anywhere else. But like, there are similar programs that different universities come together, work together to build different minors programs. We have an example in British Columbia. So there are efforts on like, collaborative work between the universities to create a program or a minor. But specifically in immersive learning, we don't have it.
Okay, well, that'll be really interesting. And I hope to see that offered in the future, because that would be really, really cool for people to be able to do. Because I think like the possibilities for it are pretty much endless.
True.
Honestly. I did want to ask you, what inspired your journey into researching immersive learning?
So it started like, with a curiosity about like, emerging technology and how it can enhance our experience and activities, like, and the connection that we have with the world around us. As I mentioned earlier, I have a background in architecture and engineering. So at that time, a couple of like, like-minded students and I started like, working with different technologies that we had in hand to create like, small gadgets for like, enhancing the actual space that we have, like, a house or like, an office, those kind of things. This interest was with me. And then in the School of Architecture, I learned about spaces. So as you know, architects design and create spaces to facilitate different activities for people. For example, a classroom is to facilitate the process of learning. A playground is to facilitate the process of playing and having joy. A museum is for facilitating the process of wonder and exploration. The questions that I have at that time was, what if we can have the same kind of experiences simulated in a virtual world? We have actual world, we have virtual world. What kind of possibilities will unlock if we address those experiences in a virtual world and create some of those experiences, simulate them in the virtual world? So the questions stayed with me when I was like, in the graduate program of architecture. So then when I was in the graduate program of architecture, I came across an influential book written by Nicholas Negroponte, the former director of the MIT Media Lab. He's an influential guy. He has a background in architecture and technology. He created lots of different like, technologies that we currently use, such as the touch screens. The book was called Being Digital. And in that book, he posed different kind of questions similar to the questions that I had. And it was very interesting for me to see that there are like-minded people around the world. And it is an opportunity to pursue that. So what I did was that I decided to continue my studies at the PhD degree. So I increased my knowledge and understanding about the virtual worlds, virtual reality, augmented reality, mixed reality. And then I applied for a PhD program in Canada, University of Calgary. I worked with many different people at the University of Calgary. I learned a lot from them. So there I proposed a project about the hybrid spaces. The hybrid spaces bring together the potential of the actual space and the potential of a virtual space to facilitate different experiences that we have in formal and informal settings. I focused on rethinking a space and the museum experience, and I did lots of different experiments, scientific experiments, and I found out that a kind of immersive learning experience in a museum can effectively improve learning and enjoyment. So that was like, the process of how I started from a few questions and like, some curiosity with some friends, and then learning about it more and more, and then doing projects in it. And now I'm doing multiple projects related to immersive learning. Yeah.
And now like you have like your Canada research chair, you have your Immersive Learning Institute, which is honestly quite amazing. I do have one last question for you. And that is, what advice would you give to our listeners, whether it be like students, staff, or faculty?
Yeah, so I usually give this advice to my students and my colleagues, and this is every idea worth pursuing, even if it's trivial at the beginning and it's very crude at the beginning. If you put effort and time on it and work on it, on different aspects of it, developing details for it, it can be an influential idea, an influential product in the future. So every idea is valuable and it is important to pursue the ideas.
Oh, that's actually really great advice. I love that. Well, I do want to say thank you so much for being here and talking with us about your research. And I'm honestly really excited to see where this goes.
Thank you very much. It was an honor to be here today. And thanks for having me.
Thank you. Well, that's all we have for today's episode of Research Recasted. If you want to support this podcast, you can visit Research Recasted on your favorite podcast platform to find new episodes every 2 weeks. Also, don't forget to check us out on Instagram, where you can give us a like, leave us a follow, or send us any follow-up questions you have from today's episode. This has been Research Recasted, a knowledge mobilization podcast, brought to you by the Office of Research Services and the Faculty of Fine Arts and Communications at MacEwan University.